So this isn't going to be so much a review of the episode as much as it is going to be a discussion of what comes next. Like, where do we go from here? And we're referring to Big Sky, episode 5, A Good Day to Die. This is sort of the mid-season, not really mid-season, but the holiday break, so they'll be off for several weeks.
The
This is Pulp Myth. Oh, go ahead.
the third of a season.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But yeah, this is Pulp Mythos. I'm Brian here with Spencer, and yeah, if you haven't hit the sub button, hit the bell, do so because we're gonna keep covering this show when it returns, and we have a lot of other content. We'll be putting up our the Stan episode 1 review tomorrow. Well, depending on when you're watching this, and the Mandalorian season finale. We're also doing Your Honor. And got a couple ideas for 2021, so definitely stay tuned for that. Please hit the up vote and leave a comment. That helps push the video. And yeah, so like I said, this is going to be more of a discussion on where things go. We're going to break it down pretty much by character. So I'm just going to recap what happens at the end. Full spoilers ahead. First of all, before we do that, we didn't talk much about it offline. Did you like the episode, or what was your overall feeling?
I'm not. Before I say that, when you said what we're doing for 2021, all I could think of was a deep dive of like Big Bang Theory or something. Like, I don't know why. Like, that was my
Big Bang Theory. That's, and we're going to analyze every episode of.
I'm
Yeah,
not. I don't hate people who like it because it's their thing. I just didn't like their take on nerdism. But anyway, uh, I I liked when it started. I enjoyed kind of their little hokey singing and their bonding, and then you go into all the different characters, kind of establishing, storylines. So I was okay with it at the beginning, and then towards like I don't know the beginning of the second act, the second half, I did not like the Jenny and Cassie stuff. I felt it was too like it because sometimes when they do it, it feels like intentionally kind of over the top and hokey. But this, it didn't feel like it was intentional. It just felt bad. But I did.
Are
I am
you
intrigued
referring to
by
like the car rides
yes,
and the different conversations? Okay.
yeah, yeah. I was not hugely on that because to me, it felt like they weren't developing characters. They were just having a chit chat, and I wasn't interested in hearing their chit chat. To me, if you have a show, you have a limited amount of time. Every moment on screen should be important and should lead to something. I felt like some of their talks weren't establishing anything. They were just like dead space, and I didn't like that.
Yeah, I could see that. It didn't really distract me that much this episode. I do know what you mean. To me, it felt like the show was laying, specifically for Cassie and Jenny, it was laying out that they're partners now, and I guess that's sort of the direction the show is going to go. Is that they'll work together to solve crimes, and Cassie will use her abilities of remembering memories of Cody, and that'll help her solve her mysteries. So like I said it before, right?
Sure.
Ryan Felipe, you talk about the greatest gig ever, and I mean, dude, they're fishing this week, so I guess he will stick around to be in these flashbacks. The show, one of our commenters notified us that the show got an extra 6 episode order, so the show is doing well. It critically it's very mixed, but if you look at the numbers and you look at the ratings, the show definitely has a fan base building, and they went ahead and ordered 6 more episodes. So when it returns, we're not getting 5 episodes. We're in fact, as of now, going to get 11. So I don't know if that means he'll come back and shoot more flashbacks or how that'll work, but yeah.
Live. He'll be in the truck, like still like clinging to life, drinking his own sweat or something. I don't know.
Well, let's get to it. The end of the episode, we have a lot going on. We have Rick is at the bar. He has the girl. He has Jerry, Danny, and Grace. He has the girls all in the basement, all ready. Two. Well, I don't know why I keep thinking it's two. I don't think we have a set number, but some bad people are on the way to pick the girls up. He's waiting for them. They should be there any second, but instead, Cassie's the one who shows up. Jenny is on her way, but she's not there yet. Uh, Cassie has a standoff with Rick. I thought that was a great scene. Their dialogue. Did you agree or did you not agree? I
Well,
like the back and forth.
so did I. And as much as I was bitching about Cassie and Jenny's back and forth, this one I felt, I don't know if it's just because the way that Rick responded to her, or maybe it was his dialogue, the way he, delivered it. I don't know. And it's weird because I like Catherine. I think it's Winnick. I'm not. I don't know how to say her last name. Jenny, the girl from Vikings. But her as an actress, I love her in Vikings. I've loved her in other stuff, but in this, I do not like her dynamic with Cassie. Individually, I like both of their scenes. I like
I
both
think, yeah,
with
I
other
agree.
people, but together, I like it.
That's a good.
Weird.
I didn't think of that. That's a good. I think I like them when they're in their own scenes, but when they're together, I don't think there's a chemistry there.
Yeah, it's weird. So, like the whole Rick and Cassie part, I loved. Like I thought it was well handled. You could tell she was getting nervous, but he was also trying to talk his way out of it. It was delivered well. Rick the whole time, and then even with the end, he was like, "Oh shit!" And so every line was well done. I don't like Jenny and Cassie together.
Yeah, I think you nailed it there with that. I think that is my problem or issue with those characters that I don't know. There's something about it, and this goes back to the first episode when they had their little quarrel with each other because of Cody. That was sort of annoying back then, but as the series has gone on, specifically with Cassie, I'm starting to really get into the character. But I agree. I think when those two are on film together, I don't know. There's something that's not working for me. I prefer when they're separate. Um, yeah, yeah, good. Yeah, I agree. Cast. So yeah, I like that scene, but then it ends in a crazy way. I said weeks ago that the thing that was keeping me on this show was the character of Rick Legowski. But it appears he's no longer going to be on the show potentially. So let's
I
talk about that. She pulls the gun.
don't go around.
Yeah, she pulls the trigger, shoots him in the head. It's clear he was shot in the head. We will assume that he's dead. Now I had a thought. Well, what if he doesn't die? uh, we'll talk about that here in a minute. But let's assume he's dead. How does that affect me as far as wanting to stick with the show? I will say the show did a good job over the last couple episodes of making Ronald more interesting, a little more depth, a few more scene. They're actually building a character. So do I think he can carry the show as the central villain? No, I do not. But as one piece of it, yeah, sure. And we do know that supposedly some guys or somebody's coming who I would assume will be villains. Maybe they'll have a major role, maybe not. And we know this whole syndicate of human trafficking. So the potential for other villains to come exists. So and in this episode, we got a flashback with Rick. In other words, Rick could be very much like Cody, where we're getting flashbacks of the
That's
character.
what I was gonna say. Rick's gonna be Ronald's ghost and just help guide him through spiritual intervention or something.
And or his wife. Rick's wife could be having memories of him too. So I say all that to say, even though Rick was shot in the head, he's not necessarily out of the show.
No, we've proved that with uh, Ryan Felipe or Philippi or whatever it is. I'm not quite sure how he pronounces it, but he's been in every episode. Not, and it's funny because, like you said, Cassie thinks of this memory with him, and it sparks like this one little line that helps her solve the case. It's like the beginning of CSI. Every episode, it's like the bug's larva is only at this stage. He must have been dead for a month.
Yeah, I just can't wait to see what other memories. Like, okay, they've been, romantic together. They've made s'mores at a fireplace. They've been
Climax.
fishing. What other, are they going to build a tree house and go hiking? Like, what other things are they going to be doing in the woods? Um,
They're, they're gonna shear a sheep, knit a sweater.
the so this is my thoughts. I'm just going to lay out my theory right here, right now. Get it out of the way. Okay, this is the conflict the show has going forward. If in fact Cassie killed Rick, the central villain of the show, she rescues all three women. Jerry, Grace, and Danny are rescued. Ronald is screwed because they know what he looks like. They could describe him. They know what his truck looks like. There's no way you could convince me that they wouldn't be able to track him down. So, in other words, the whole sort of dynamic of the show would fall apart. And then also the characters of Grace and Danny don't even live there. They were just coming to visit Justin, Jenny's son. So, are they going to stay there now? So, I have a theory. My theory is Cassie, okay, she killed Rick, or he's in some kind of coma because he was shot in the head. The bad people that were coming to get the women show up. They take Cassie out, knock her out, or something. Get the girls, take them, and then bam, when Jenny shows up, oh my God, Rick's shot in the head. The girls aren't there, and where do we go from here? That would protect Ronald. That would create more conflict with the whole Rick Cassie thing, almost to the point where she may even get arrested. It would create more drama, and it would also keep the girls in the story. That's one of my thoughts. Of okay, how could they get out of this conundrum of where do the show goes from here?
What if the traffickers take Cassie also? So now you have Cassie and the other three, um, the other three who they were already captured. Now they take Cassie out. So now you have Jenny looking for all of these people, and then Cassie working kind of from the inside to try to help break them out. But it would also give you a deeper look into whatever this syndicate is. I have a feeling that if they go your route, which to me, her getting arrested for the murder of Rick is a brilliant way to kind of establish that. But to me, I don't know how they would go after the ring and get the girls back if she's arrested. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
part would move forward unless that's like a long term thing and they're thinking season two or something like that. Then, uh, yes, if it's going to be this is an ongoing thing for multiple seasons, as opposed to what we said, like each season is one like case or one big mystery, then yeah, then let her get arrested. Then, but if they arrest her and basically take her out of commission, is she going to break out of jail to help try and find that? Which is still interesting too. So there's a lot of ways it could go from here, but I don't know. I also, and we talked about this earlier, the uh, the highway patrol like chief or whatever she is. I wasn't sure what that character's role was, but when she came and talked to the sheriff and was basically throwing Cassie under the bus, saying that Rick's a good guy and all this stuff, it kind of made me feel as though that the state troopers are also in on this ring. It's not just Rick; it's all of them, and maybe they convinced Rick through his religious beliefs because that's how it was kind of spun to us when he was trying to get Ronald on board. He was telling him, we're basically doing, this the U.S. a justice by taking these people off the street. And it was what it's like. He said something like it's what God would will or something like that. But I think that it would add another interesting dynamic if he's just one of many of the people, the police that are corrupt.
Yeah, it definitely they need they need more villains if you're taking Rick out of the picture and having uh, Ronald's just not going to carry it, in my opinion. He can definitely be a piece of it, but I don't think he could be the only villain in the series. We know how Ronald got involved. Now we had the flashback scene, so we got an idea of what brought him in to this, this criminal thing. We don't know. You're right about Rick's origin in this. What got him into it? How did he make these contacts? How is it that he's able to? He's constantly in communication with these bad people, but we never get that side of things. We never hear that communication um, on that side. And there's even a line where he's talking with Ronald, and Ronald's wanting to know more, and he's just like, this isn't for you. You couldn't handle it, etc. So I'm assuming we're gonna get some of that, when the show returns, as far as who is on the other side. My other thought with the girls, if like I said, if you rescue them, why would they stay in that town? There, you know what I mean? Grace
Yeah,
and Danny are not from there. Jerry is. Jerry could stick around. Maybe work with the Jenny or Cassie or whatever. But it doesn't really make. And they're still some teenagers. They're like, I guess, in school or whatever,
I
or
think they
high
said
school.
17 and 16, something like
Yeah.
that.
So that's why I was thinking it doesn't make sense for them to get freed at this point of the story. If they're still, going to be main characters.
Well, and like you mentioned, Ronald couldn't be a lead. He's not high enough up the food chain to take over as the lead villain. He can still play a part in it, but like you said, how can he be the lead if he doesn't even know why they're doing it, who they're doing it for, who's coming to get? Like, he doesn't have any of the information. So for him to take over as the lead villain when he's not very high up the food chain wouldn't make sense. He can still be like a main character, but he can't, I think, be the lead villain, because it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, that my thoughts exactly, as far as that character. Even though, like I said, I'm enjoying it more. I
Oh, I
just
like. I just don't think that he's, like I said, he's not the one calling the shot. So to continue the villainy, it can't just be him. Well, I mean, good. It could be him re-kidnapping them for his own, if they take it that route. But even then, you have all these other pieces that are in play also. You have this whole ring that's now coming after them. So that could be a route too, where Ronald takes them because, his mom basically calls him a pervert, saying he took them because of his own, you know, sexual desires or whatever. So if he re-kidnaps the group, that could be him on the run with them from whatever the trafficking gang is. So then you have that angle, but I don't. To me, that would still not be very. It couldn't last that long. So now I'm
yeah.
thinking 11 more episodes. How are they going to stretch out 11 more episodes? That's, to me, the biggest mystery.
Two characters that were very minor early on, but became more important in the last couple episodes, and I quite enjoy both of them. One, the sheriff Walter, and the second, I believe it's like Marilee, Rick's wife. These are two characters that have, like I said, they were just sort of background characters, and now they're main characters. If Rick is dead, which he probably is, where does her character go? We had the whole dynamic with Ronald. Um, so there's definitely more for her, clearly. And then Walter, he's the sheriff. He's the one who's working with Cassie and Jenny, or at least trying to take their side as much as possible. Um, I like that dynamic, actually, him with them.
It kind of reminds me of there's a couple different movies, but So I Married an Axe Murderer, the the chief, uh, the chief of police there, his captain. Chief of police and captain aren't the same thing. Chief of police in charge of all of them. I know captains are in charge of uh, different precincts, but he like his whole dynamic was, it was funny, but he also, it was funny because he was so kind of like straight. He played a straight funny, kind of like Mark Wahlberg does. Obviously, Mark Wahlberg's a better actor than this guy, but that's what it felt like to me. And I thought that he did a great job. I thought that um, his communication with Cassie, and basically telling him to straighten up, calm down. When the highway patrol person in charge kind of stepped up, and then he ended up arresting Jenny, that it was almost like reactionary. So I don't know how. I don't want to say ballsy he is, but how willing to fold he'll be. I don't know if going forward he's going to stand up to this uh, highway patrol person, or if he's just going to fold underneath the pressure. So I'm interested to see where his character goes from here.
We have, looking at it from a comic book point of view, you could say, okay, Walter is Gordon, Cassie is Batman, Jenny is Robin, their assistant, I can't remember her name, she's the Oracle.
He hasn't got the glasses.
Ro- Ronald is I don't know what Riddler. I
Hey,
don't know. He Mad Hatter. He's actually he reminds me of Mad Hatter.
oh yeah,
Mad Hatter had a weird thing about kidnapping women, so that actually would tie in with him. And Rick was a little more smart. I was just messing around, but I'm looking at the dynamics here, and I don't know. There's you see some of those similarities the way it's sort of being laid out. Let's talk about yet again. We sort of talked about it, but okay, let's say Danny, Grace, and Jerry get freed. Let's say they are rescued. How would you keep them there? We saw their parents. We saw Danny and Grace's parents at the very beginning for like 2 seconds. That we know they're looking for them, but yeah, how do you keep them in the show?
oh, if they're like rescued or whatever,
Yeah,
and
they're rescued. They don't live there, so what would keep them in that area?
well, I don't know, because Justin, who was it wasn't a main character, but he was a higher up sub character, and I haven't seen him in what, two episodes?
Yeah, he's been
Like they
gone.
have
Yeah,
so with the girls, uh, Cassie, or not Cassie and Jenny, Grace and what was the other one's name? Grace and
they call her Dan. It's like Danielle or something,
yeah.
but Danny is whatever what they call her.
You got Danny and Grace. Like, what are they gonna, try and find Justin if they get released, and seek him, or are they gonna go after their parents? Because I, yeah, their parents would want to basically scoop them up and be like, "We're going home. Fuck this place." So yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Here's another element. Okay, let's say they get rescued, and this is why I don't think they'll get rescued. If you rescue them and you save them, the story they're going to tell about what happened and who was involved, including a state trooper, dude, how do you not have a massive, the feds coming in and, this massive operation being launched to figure out what the hell's going on, who's involved, and, leads to this whole, human trafficking operation. So that's another reason I sort of don't think they'll get captured, or excuse me, get freed, because if you do that, I don't know how the show continues.
Yeah, the direction that they're pushing us right now, it wouldn't feel like the same direction if they get free. Because I think, like you mentioned earlier, if the parents now are worried, the parents now are looking, that is more how they could bring the feds in. Like if they don't get caught, or if they don't get, I guess, released, if they remain captured, you have the parents who can start looking at other law enforcement options, because they're like, hey, my kids have been missing for this long. What's going on? And then, you guys aren't searching. And then becomes, that um, was America's Most Wanted type thing, or Unsolved Mysteries. And all of a sudden now the feds are involved. And that could be how they uncover the multinational trafficking ring. But I think with them being released, you basically would just arrest Ronald and it's over. So
Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious because I my assumption if it all came down to when they announced the 6 additional episodes, because originally I thought this was going to be a 10 episode story arc and that was it. And this first half, the way it ended, felt like okay, you could resolve the next half with maybe the search for Ronald and a few other things. But now, like, okay, no, we got 11 episodes. Clearly, they're I'm assuming the showrunners have ideas. I know they're books, so they're definitely, I'm sure, using those as inspiration. But yeah, adding the additional episodes, I think might change the direction of the show or how it's not a show. The structure of the show is not a solve this mystery or solve this crime in one episode. It's a continually ongoing story arc where every single episode goes into the next, and that kind of storytelling, hopefully they've mapped out where it's going.
Yeah, because it's not a procedural drama where each episode's kind of its own thing. This has been 5 episodes where the twists keep getting bigger, but at some point you're going to have to solve it. Otherwise, it's going to start getting super crazy and even less believable. And it's just going to me, not be entertaining if they don't push forward in the story, if they don't solve, at least some aspect of it. Uh, but like you said, it felt like it should only be 5 more episodes. Like you said, they figure this out, and then maybe by the end of the season, their next uh, group of people they're going for is the trafficking ring, in season 2. But with this being 6 extra episodes, are they basically going to reach into season 2 or what originally may have been season 2? Or are they fucking trying to put their heads together now to flesh out a couple more episodes? I don't know. But to me, these extra episodes will really let me know whether or not I'm watching season 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed. Ronald, he had the moment where he chokes out his mom. We have him, sort of taking the lead. He goes back to Rick's wife and kisses her, and she seemed to be into that. So, like I said, Ronald's been stepping up the last couple episodes. Uh, if Yeah, where does that go? Because it never tells us if he has direct contact with the this, we'll just call him the syndicate of this organized crime trafficking thing. Uh, so it was Rick doing all the talking. It wasn't Ronald. So does he? I wonder if he even has the ability to communicate with that organization.
Well, are they going to seek him out? Are they going to think that Cassie was the one working with uh, Rick? Like, I don't know, because we're assuming that they are right there. Like, they are right behind Cassie, and they will probably get there before Jenny. So is Ronald going to show up in between? Is he going to show up before them? Is he going to be part of the is he going to be there basically the same time as the I like how you call them the syndicate. I think that's what we'll call them from now on.
Yeah,
So
I'm
like
just thinking of it. Yeah,
it's very comic booky. But I think that where Ronald goes from here to me is the bigger question mark, because I think that will lead where the villains are going forward. And not necessarily who the villain's going to be, but kind of when they're going to be revealed to us. Because if he still remains a focal character, if he doesn't get arrested, then he will be the quasi lead villain until they finally bring the syndicate out into the open. But if he gets arrested because the girls are saved, then the syndicate basically takes over episode 6 or 7, and then they become the main focus or the main villain. So I just think that it really depends on Ronald as to when we're going to find out about the other bigger villains.
there's one scene I just wanted to bring it up because it was to me the most disturbing scene of the show so far, and it was a weird scene, but it just sort of struck me as very uncomfortable and disturbing. It was when Ronald was cleaning the girls up, and I think the thing about that scene, like, this is the show. We've said the acting is a hit or miss at certain scenes. Some of the elements are not so believable at times. There was something about that scene that was so disturbing because human trafficking is a thing, and we know these horrible things happen. And that was one of those scenes where it's like, that type of thing happens, and that women are kidnapped, and the idea of them being clean to be property. I don't know. The whole thing just got under my skin, and the way it was done. It was the first time I genuinely was like, oh man, yeah, these guys are. I didn't look at them as the comic booky villains they were, but looked at them as very disturbed and twisted individuals.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I have kids and I have girls, and that to me is very unsettling. Now that doesn't mean that girls are the only victims. When it's kids, it's normally free game, but it's regardless that thought of people being treated like that, and like you said, the process of cleaning them to make sure that they're presentable, it was just very unsettling. And we've talked about this through other shows that we've watched when people have been treated like property. It's something that I have never witnessed or ever had to be a part of, but it is, I couldn't imagine. Like, there's no way that I could ever fathom how fucked up that is.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, to me that was that scene just stuck out. I just wanted to bring it up. It was in my notes, and I was like, yeah, it was. um, I think I've covered. Like I said, this. I apologize to the audience if this was all over the place and not super coherent. I didn't really know how to approach the episode. My original outline to talk about was typically what we do. I was going to break down some of the scenes and this and that, which we sort of did. But I was, I really want to focus on where this show could potentially go based on the final 3 minutes that aired. And I'm curious to the audience. What do you think? Do you agree or disagree with some of the things we've said? Do you have your own theories? Is some of this answered in the book series? Maybe it is. I don't know. Are you going to stick with the show now that it's going to be longer? Are you enjoying it? Are you going to stick with the show? As I said, as of now, we're planning on returning at the end of January and picking up with episode 6 and continuing these reviews. So yeah, I am definitely curious what the audience thinks. You were going to say something?
Yeah. Trying to remember. Oh well, I'll interrupt you if I remember.
Okay. I'm almost done.
Okay,
Let's see
well, I better
here.
hurry the fuck up then. No, I, I'm not sure what the game plan is, and and like you said, I think the things we're discussing, not necessarily scene by scene, but when we discussed, this possibility, you can tie it back to certain scenes. So, we talk about red herrings. This show hasn't given us a whole lot. Everything that they've shown us so far has meant something.
That's a good point.
So that's to me is the biggest question mark is the church, what the church plays in this. And I'm kind of curious because there really hasn't been any, things trying to throw you off anybody's scent. It's just trying to give you hints and develop characters at this point. And as of now, I think that the church, to me, is the biggest question mark of whether or not it's part of what Rick said, where they're doing this to rid people of this kind of demographic, or if they're taking the people to try and fix them, like almost like brainwash them and bring them back to this cult type atmosphere. So I think that they're the bigger question mark, but I really don't know.
That is a great point you make. Outside of the ending of the first episode where it's revealed Rick is a bad guy and he kills Cody, the show really hasn't had any actual like twists. It's been pretty straightforward in its storytelling. It establishes who the characters are and what their role is. There hasn't been any like, oh my, holy shit moments outside of that first episode. Now the show, like I've been praising it in the last couple episodes. It's a very fast paced series. It's constantly moving and pushing, trucking, pushing along. I was going to say trucking along. um, and has introduced interesting elements and characters and little things in the episodes. But no, like I said, we watch a lot of shows where there's big twists and revelations, and so far 5 episodes in, this one hasn't really had that outside the initial Rick turn.
Yeah, that was the only real big twist. Everything else has kind of just been, it's been revealing things along the way, but they're not really twists. It's just kind of, cat and mouse. They're going back and forth.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, this will be our last review of this until like 4 or 5 weeks, I believe, until the 6th episode. I don't remember the exact date. So, do you have anything else you want to say about Big Sky before, the end of January?
I don't think so. I think, like I said, the church thing was the only thing that I'm super curious about. And I think that we'll eventually get that. Well, not eventually. I think we'll get that pretty soon.
All right, cool. So yeah, that's it. That's our thoughts on where Big Sky could potentially be going. Hopefully, the writers have a decent outline and know what they're going to do with those extra episodes. As I said before, we have other content on the channel. We're doing Your Honor, which is turning out to be amazing. It's a show that airs Sundays on Showtime, starring Bryan Cranston. We're going to have our Mandalorian season 2 review go up here in a couple days, the finale, and we're going to. Oh yeah, The Stand. We're starting The Stand this week. So yeah, cool. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.